I'm just going to keep it real with all of you. I don't think this is a good look for the Big Ten whatsoever. Ladies and gentlemen, what is one of the biggest topics that us college football fans, we love to talk about, and we have the conversation at least once a year? I'll give you a second. Dun, dun, dun. All right, that second's up. The question is, who's the best conference in the country? Everyone loves to talk about it. Who's the best conference? Who's the top 5? Who's the top 3? And so on, so on. Now, I would say the conversation the past 10 to 15 years hasn't been who's the best conference. It's who's the second best conference, because come on now, everybody knows SEC been dominating. You can try to believe what you want, but even the people that are biased towards the Big 10, the Big 12, you know deep down the SEC is the best. In today's video though, we're not here to talk about the SEC. We're here to talk about the conference that most people would say the second best, and some people would even say is better than the SEC, and that's the Big Ten. Yes, that's right, you heard me correctly. Now, I don't believe that tomfoolery, but I've heard my fair share of people on ESPN or just anywhere say it, that the Big Ten's better than the SEC. I didn't hear anybody saying it this year, but over the past 5 or 6 years, yes, I've heard it. Here's the really intriguing part about all of this, though. The Big Ten is starting to get a bad reputation, though, for one reason and one reason only. And I'll just say this, and I think most people would agree with me, it's really affecting how people view them. It really is. We're going to talk all about that. And also another minor topic we got to speak on is Jimbo Fisher just hired one of the most controversial offensive coordinators in the game. Or not really controversial, I'd say a better word to use is polarizing. We're going to talk all about that. We're not doing no intro, none of that. It's simple. If you like college football content, what are you doing? Consider joining. If not, that's cool. When I say join, I mean subscribe. You get what I'm trying to say. All right, Matt, blah, blah, blah. Shut the crap up. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, first things first. I only want to talk about this for about 30, 45 seconds. Texas A&M, Jimbo Fisher, wasn't a great year for them. We know this. They had the number 1 recruiting class in the country. They was a top 10 team. They was supposed to beat Bama, compete for not just an SEC championship, but a national title, and yet they don't even make it to a bowl game. One of the most embarrassing seasons I've ever seen from a team in my lifetime. And most people criticize Jimbo Fisher because of his offensive play calling abilities. You didn't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out Texas A&M's offense was dog crap this year. And the worst part about it is Jimbo Fisher's ego and pride is so big that he couldn't admit he was doing a bad job. Everyone was asking questions saying, hey, are you going to get a new play caller? Are you going to let the offensive coordinator call the plays? And he was like, nope, not doing that. I'm calling the plays. And yeah, we saw how that turned out. Some of you are going to know what I'm saying when I state this. Nobody looked like a bigger idiot this season than Jimbo Fisher with all those play sheets, looking like a 9th grader, losing all of his papers, hanging out of his hands, and yet he's getting blown out of these games. You just look stupid when you got 400 play sheets over there and you can't even score 10 points in a ball game. It was pitiful and embarrassing, whatever word you like to use and throw in there, but now officially the breaking news has came out that Jimbo Fisher is hiring Bobby Petrino. And you know what role he's going to take on this team? You know where I'm going with this. The offensive coordinator. I'm just going to leave it at this. I think this is an extremely intriguing hire, to say the least. Bobby Petrino and Jimbo Fisher on the same sideline. I never saw this coming in my wildest dreams. I don't really have too much to say about it besides the fact I am very curious. Let me know your thoughts on this down below. I would love to know your thoughts on this. But finally, moving on to the main topic, the main encore, the main reason clicked onto the video, we got to talk about the overrated Big Ten. I've said it year after year after year after year, the Big Ten as a conference is overrated, and I firmly believe that. It just so happens this year highlighted what I've always said, and now some people are starting to believe me. Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold your horses, partner. I know what you're about to say. Matt, Big Ten overrated? What are you talking about? Are you stupid? We had 2 teams in the college football playoff. Yes, that's a fair point. I get it. But notice I didn't say Ohio State and Michigan are overrated. I said the Big Ten's overrated, so hear me out. I said we started out with this tweet because it had a lot of people talking and got over 1,000 retweets, 6,000 likes. The SEC in the semifinals in the playoff, 10-1. The Big Ten, 2-6. The Big Ten lost more semifinal games yesterday, which was referring to the semifinal playoff that happened 3 or 4 days ago, than the SEC has lost in the entire 9-year history of the playoff. Now, I don't have too much to say about that tweet. I just thought it was a fun fact because I didn't know that, and it is a bad look for the Big Ten. A lot of people try to argue and say that the Big Ten, their top dogs, which is Ohio State and Michigan, They're on par with the SEC top dogs, which is Alabama and Georgia, and as you can see, that's not the case. Alabama and Georgia in semifinal games, 9-1. Do what you want with that information. If you're sitting there wondering if I'm just making this video because of that stat, I'm not. Here's what I'm really about to get into. The Big Ten West isn't just arguably the worst division in all of college football, it is the worst division. It's not even close. I'll give you a brief run through. Your winner of the Big Ten West lost to LSU by 60 points in a bowl game. Your winner of the Big Ten West was 8-6 this season. Yeah, it's embarrassing, but let me show you all these teams. At the very bottom of the totem pole, you got Northwestern, which is arguably the worst team in all of college football. Yes, even worse than Vanderbilt. They finished the year 1-11, and I'm not even too sure and sold on the fact that they could beat IMG Academy. Above them, you got Nebraska. They went 4-8. They suck. We've already talked about that enough. Wisconsin above them, they're average at best, 7-6. Then you had a shocker, surprise, surprise. Minnesota went 9-4, which is awesome, and then Iowa went 8-5. We all know how it goes with Iowa. They're never going to beat anybody legit. Iowa has terrible quarterback play. And I already know you're going to have some Big Ten fans run to the comment section. Well, Matt, Iowa has a ton of top 5 wins. And yes, you know who that's against? Big Ten teams that are overrated. Not going to dive into that too much. Iowa sucks. As to how they finished 8-5, I have no idea. And last but not least, above them, you got Illinois average and Purdue average. And I struggle calling Illinois and Purdue average, but I'm just going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on. I know what all these Big Ten fans are about to run to the comment section and say, and I'm sick and tired of it. Matt, yes, the Big Ten West, they're awful, I'll give you that, but the Big Ten East, it's loaded. That's all I hear, that's all Big Ten fans tell me, and I disagree. You know why I disagree? Because the Big Ten East as a whole, as a unit, isn't loaded. All you got is Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State. Granted, those are good/great teams, but that's it. The other half, which is actually more than half, your 4 out of 7 teams that are also in the Big Ten East are awful. Maryland, trash, and they had a good year and went 8-5. Michigan State, trash, 5-7. Under that, Indiana, trash. That's a basketball school. And last but not least, Rutgers. Do I need to say anything about Rutgers? No. The Big Ten East is also very, very bad outside of 3 teams. Yes, let me say this again and emphasize it. I'll give you respect for 3 teams. Michigan, great. Ohio State, great. And Penn State, really, really good. That's it. That's all you got. You got 3 teams that are really good in the conference, and the other 9 teams are average at best. Whereas, let's just use that as a comparison because they are the gold standard. They are number 1, the SEC. As we all know, the toughest division in the entire world is the SEC West. Granted, the SEC West had a terrible and down year, but for the most part, really hard to play in. Even in a down year in the SEC West, LSU, good football team. Alabama, really good football team. Mississippi State, that's a good football team. And Ole Miss, they were a good football team. That kind of ended rough. And remember, this is a down year. You had a lot of years where Auburn was really good and a lot of years where A&M was really good, and they'll probably be back in probably, maybe next year, 2 or 3 years. And then you got Arkansas, and I want to say this to make it clear. If Arkansas was in the Big Ten, they go 9-3 every single year. The harsh reality is Arkansas has one of the toughest schedules every single year. It is what it is. But even if you just want to say the SEC West had 3 good teams in Mississippi State, Alabama, LSU, or you can substitute Ole Miss and Mississippi State, that's 3 good teams. Let's go to the SEC East. The SEC East, or as many refer to it as the SEC least because they're terrible compared to the West over the past 10, 15 years. You had Georgia, best team in the country, probably going to win it all. Tennessee, really good, and South Carolina, top 20 team. And I'll offer you this perspective. This is the difference with the Big Ten and the SEC. Just take a look at it. These teams in the Big Ten like Maryland, Indiana, Rutgers, Northwestern, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Minnesota, they don't even have a chance to beat teams like Michigan and Ohio State. The reason they don't have a chance against these teams is because they simply don't have the talent, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you gotta have talent. You can be the greatest coach in the world, but if you're coaching kids that are from Nebraska and Northwestern, Rutgers, and Indiana, you're not winning anything. You can take that how you want, it's just a cold hard fact. But going back to the SEC, even with Kentucky, Florida, Missouri, Texas A&M, Arkansas in down years, they have the talent to compete. Here's something I want you to pay attention to. Look at the bottom of the SEC West and the bottom of the SEC East. Notice how even the worst teams are always around 6-7, 7-6, 5-7. But then go back to the Big Ten East and Big Ten West. Notice how the bottom teams, they're 1-11. You got 3 teams that went 4-8. And then to put the cherry on top of things, you do have 2 great teams, and you get 2 teams into the playoff. And well, what happens? Both of your teams lose in the semifinal games. Yet again proving that the Big Ten is nowhere even close to the SEC. And this isn't me trying to brag about the SEC, I'm just comparing them to the gold standard, which is the SEC. They're number 1. And now it's getting to the point where, yeah, the Big Ten, you got a couple of great teams, but are you even the second best conference? I don't know. Me personally, and this is just me, I think the Pac-12 right now, as to where it stands, is better than the Big Ten, and same thing with the Big 12. The Big 12 is better than the Big Ten. The Pac-12 currently has 6 teams, not just in the top 25, but in the top 20. Think about that. You know what, actually, let me go back on this. I got SEC number 1, duh, obviously. Pac-12 number 2, Big Ten 3, and Big 12 4, and obviously ACC's garbage. They're last. They're 5. I'm going to say the Big 12 is still slightly behind the Big Ten, but the Big Ten's got to pick it up. It really, and I mean really, looks bad when you get 2 teams in the playoff and both of them lose in their first game. What does everybody say about the SEC? Oh, well, Alabama and Georgia, they've been carrying the SEC. Well, here's the thing with that. You can't even make that argument for Ohio State and Michigan because they haven't won a title. The last title Ohio State won was in 2014. That was dang near 10 years ago. I'm just going to keep it real with all of you. I don't think this is a good look for the Big Ten whatsoever. You're a top-heavy league, which we can all agree on, and even your top dogs, they can't win the big ones. Something has got to change. I'm very curious. I know it's going to be controversial. Let me know your thoughts down below. But